Okay, ladies and gents, welcome on board. Let's have everyone in who is ready to come in, and we will get started at 7 o'clock on the button. So, we've got a few minutes to kill. Let's have a look at the markets and still before we get going. Nasdaq just chugging away, very, very low volume day on the Qs. Very low range as well. Dow a little bit better. Gold's undone all of its work from where were we? Friday. That'd be interesting now, actually, because that's tried so hard to kind of break out of that multi-month flag. Just couldn't do it. Cable, can cable break through that yearly high? 2024 high? Is it 2024? Yeah, we're not far off. Well, it's a minimal range today, but it's will the election give it some pressure to the upside? Who knows? We'll get started in a bit, guys. Please come in, grab yourself a seat, relax. We've got an hour and a half of juicy content for you. What else we've got on the docket? Crude doing not a lot. USD JPY has been on a tear, of course. Some people are trying to second guess the intervention. Some people are saying we don't believe in that. We're just going to stay long. Pullback trade. Maybe so. Bit of risk there, maybe from any potential intervention. What else we got knocking about? Tesla's still pretty strong. Nike, watching Nike. I think I mentioned this last week. That got battered. It's really struggled. It's dipped below that prior low, 74, I think we were. Let me just punch it up. Or wait, we'll get started in about 30 seconds, ladies and gents. Yeah, I've got that at about 74, 23. So it'd be interesting to see if it holds above that today, and maybe it can climb back up. Who knows? But it wasn't very bullish, that news, was it? Okay, so let's see. All right, we shall get started in about. Well, we'll get started now, shall we? Let's go for it. Okay, so strategy generation using ChatGPT. Welcome, ladies and gents, on board. It's a pleasure to have you here. So I'm going to discuss today. First of all, let me just make sure I remind you that we are, if you're trading leverage instrument, which I know you are because you're a Pepperstone client, I know that you trade CFDs, spread bet products, then please be aware that it is very high risk and double-edged sword, right? Margin's good when it's working, margin not very good when it's not working. You get the game, you understand the potential loss involved, and I just want to make sure everyone knows and understands that. I'm sure you did, because when you signed up for a Pepperstone account, you will have gone through and looked at all the risk disclaimers, but it's important to recognize this. Okay, so today we're going to talk about strategy generation using ChatGPT. Great quote from Warren Buffett here. The best investment you can make is in yourself. And so you're here today to learn about using this new technology to improve yourself as a trader. Which, listen, I've already explained. I'm super bullish about this technology. I really like it, and I'm here to kind of share it from a trader's perspective. And I hope we're doing something innovative here. I hope that we're kind of looking at this broad, massive sphere of AI and these AI chatbots and saying, right, how can we use it in our business, in our industry, in our world, which is trading? How can we kind of extract the value from that? Because I know there's so much stuff out there, so much noise. So that's my objective today, to try and give you some value. All right. So first of all, like, I want to just say this, and I said this before, but it's very important that I'm not here to recommend a tool. ChatGPT is the one I'm familiar with, so it's the one I'm going to share with you. There's Gemini, there's Grok, there's Claude, there's all sorts of other ones which may well be better suited for you. I don't know. I've not explored those. I'm a trader who's just trying to share a lot of the kind of experimentation and rabbit holes that I've been down with you. So I've got to assume everything it says is wrong. And today, some great examples of how it kind of got a little bit naughty. It did get a little bit naughty. It went off on a tangent, had to pull it back. Great, though, because it shows you, I think, how we can do that. How can we effective? How we can be effective and kind of steering it to the outcome that we want. So it's a great examples later on with that when we go through some strategy generation together. Double check everything. A great example as well of how initially it gets things totally wrong. I said, hey, that looks like it's wrong. And it went, actually, it is. So it's smart enough to know it's wrong when it's told it's wrong, but it's not smart enough to know that it's wrong when it does it. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Obviously don't rely on ChatGPT to make trading decisions for you. We are right on the kind of bleeding edge here of how to use ChatGPT, strategy generation. You know, you must just be obviously personal responsibility. This is a tool, right? It's an assistant. You look at it, you go, hey, help me generate this. And we're going to go through a step-by-step process together in a moment. Help me generate this. And then you want to check. Then you want to double check that everything you're doing is right. Always check, always verify. And, you know, I'm not an expert. Week 5, I told you the itinerary last week. Week 5, we've got the expert on I forgot how to pronounce his name now. You've seen the guy anyway. Week 5, the name escapes me, but he is there in week 5, and I probably should have written it down. So he is going to be on later on, and he's the AI expert. So he is going to really be able to answer your questions about AI, about all the complexities of stuff like that. So, you know, if you've got anything you want to ask him, then save it till the end. If you want to pump something in the Q&A, by the way, ladies and gents, then do feel free. I will get to that in a moment. I'll get to that, sorry, at the end. But first of all, what did we do last week, and what was the homework? The homework last week was, from last week, what did we cover? So we covered on decide on your objective, right? So we want to know where we're headed, what we're trying to achieve. ChatGPT, we kind of use some examples of how broad it can go and how wild it can be with its replies. And we kind of said, right, well, listen, let's drag it in and let's use this 5 point formula, magic formula, if you like, to get the best results. So persona, context, task, input, and format. And that was kind of the structure of the best way to use it. Or one of the, when I say the best way, is probably other ways out there, but a good way to get good results, right? And then asking additional questions of ChatGPT, you know, as you kind of progress. And this is a great workshop today where we kind of go down these rabbit holes, we explore strategies, and we have to ask additional questions to get the answers that we want from it. Expect mistakes and kind of have some fun exploring. Okay, so last week I set you some homework, right? And the homework was kind of to go away and to try your own inputs, right? To try your own inputs and to say, okay, listen, let me try some stuff out. Let me use that kind of formula. And you know, just explore a little bit, have a play with the tool, just get used to not trading with, but just used to exploring ChatGPT. So let me know if you tried anything. A few people have messaged me before, so I'll get to those. If you anything you tried you thought was interesting, you want to share, stick it in the Q&A. I'm not sure if the chat's available, but the Q&A certainly is. If you did anything and you want to share it, that's absolutely fine. There was someone said, okay, listen, I tried the trading psychology idea to help me with some pre-trade anxiety. So if you remember, in the last slide or so, one of the last slides, we talked about you could use a persona, right? And hopefully, you know, you got that and understood what we're trying to do there. And really, I use a psychology example. Like, hey, I'm struggling with some sort of psychology. You know, what could you do? So someone did this. They tried the trading psychology idea to help me with some pre-trade anxiety, and it came up with a breathing technique. So that's cool. So you kind of, I don't know what persona you use there, but you maybe put in Brett Steenbarger, maybe you put in Steve Ward, maybe you just said trading psychologist, maybe you said Wendy from Billions. I don't know. You know, up to you. And it came up with a breathing technique, great, which you then can go and try out for yourself. And I think the reason with this is it helps you workshop and brainstorm ideas of how to move forward. Like if you're stuck with a challenge, like this, I assume it's gentleman or lady, whoever it is, with pre-trade anxiety, which some people get, right? They get nervous about pulling the trigger. Am I going to lose on the trade? I'm going to trade going to work for me. I'm going to get right. I'm going to be wrong. And that can kind of really shackle us in bringing that discretionary trader out. And sometimes we need something to release that. And, you know, obviously asking ChatGPT saying, hey, I'm assuming he said, hey, act as a trading psychologist or act as this trading psychologist and give me 5 suggestions in bullet, maybe, on how to improve my pre-trade anxiety. I'm a day trader. We have the context and all that stuff. And a breathing technique was obviously something that it said to you and you said, okay, that's going to be very valuable. Okay. Pedro says, I tried asking for help with following my own plan and got really good answers using a model. Great, Pedro. Glad to hear that. So you said, right, listen, I'm struggling to follow, I guess this was from a psychology perspective, maybe not, but assuming, how do I stick to the plan that I've laid out for me? And the good thing about ChatGPT is it just comes up with ideas. And listen, let's be honest, you've probably watched many of them on YouTube. You've probably read many books about them. You've probably heard many podcasts. But that's not the point. The point is that it gives you loads of suggestions and you go, ah, I've not heard that before. That sounds interesting. That aligns with what my beliefs and my mental model and framework of the markets and psychology and all other stuff. I'm going to implement that. And that's invaluable. That's priceless. And of course, it's really, really low cost anyway. Maybe on the free one, I don't know. But okay, that's good. Good one, Pedro. All right, anyone else sticking in the Q&A? Another one here was ideas for stop losses. So how to improve or come up with different ideas for using a stop percentage of ATR trading. So yeah, percentage of ATR, we talked about that one. And that the extra layer there is trailing a percentage of ATR. And of course, not to go off a tangent here, but let's go operational and technical for a moment. That is going to keep you in the trade longer, but you're going to give stuff back. But the definition of being able to ride a trend is that you're prepared to give some back. Like you have to sit in one camp or the other. Am I going to try and come out on some sort of exhaustion, some sort of final move, or am I going to say to myself, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be prepared to give stuff back because I want to kind of be in the longer term. That's your decision to make. It's an operational decision as a trader to make. Okay, so last one was I tried uploading price data and I couldn't get it to work. Well, lucky do, because today this is exactly what we're going to talk about. You jumped ahead of the gun there, didn't you? You jumped the gun, should I say? You jumped ahead. And played around. Good, but good for experimenting, right? Experiment, play around with stuff. That's what it's there for. You can't do any damage, right? There's nothing you can do. You can just go down a rabbit hole. It breaks, doesn't work, something doesn't come out. That's fine. But anyway, I'm going to show you today how to upload data, where to get it from, and we'll go through that step-by-step process. Last one here. Oh, by the way, good one for doing your homework, guys. Good one, because if you're like me, very often you will watch something, you will attend a webinar, you'll attend a seminar, you'll do this, and you'll be like, yeah, that's great. And you're all motivated and pumped up and like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then life happens. You log off, you go away, you stop listening, you stop watching, and life just happens and you get caught up in other stuff. You get caught up in your trading, you get caught up in whatever you're doing, and you kind of forget. And so my goal with the homework is to just keep it fresh in your mind. I don't think you're going to have any major epiphanies, but to keep it fresh where you go, okay, you know what? I'm going to note it down. And if you're like me, you have to have it in your calendar, right? You have to say, right, this day, I'm going to do this. And you put it down and you put aside 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever you've got. And you say, that's what I'm going to do. And that just helps you go, I remember Mark talking about that. I remember reading that. It just brings it all together. And when you're doing, I guess if you're like me, learning by doing, you're actually doing and putting the prompts in, you're going to get the outputs. Okay, so Ruben says, hey, Mark, hope you're doing well, pal. Good to see you, buddy, Ruben. Managed to create numerous ChatGPT, Risk Manager, Forex Master, Commodities, Cavant, and our very own Mark Holstead using your homework word for word. I asked ChatGPT to assist with engineering prompts specific to the homework. Love the results. Good man, Ruben. That is taking it to another level, creating your own GPTs. Brilliant. All right, risk manager, forex, and that's quite smart because then you can just go to that and say load that in, and without having to put all the prompts in again. And I wonder what the Mark Holstead one came up with. Okay, so good. All right, ladies and gents, is there one more there? No, okay. Oh, the last one was I tried uploading price data and it didn't get it to work. Well, lucky we're going to talk about that today. Okay, so here's a plan for today, ladies and gents. I love this one. I love this one. I love this one. We're going to build a trading strategy or two from scratch. And a reminder, and I will keep reminding you because there's two things here. There's one is, hey, this is obviously for Pepperstone, and we understand that we're not here to give advice. I can certainly not give advice, not qualified to give advice. And when we're talking about strategy, I must iterate that do not use a strategy ChatGPT comes up with. Take your own research, due diligence, and make the decision for yourself to trade. So we're going to build a trading strategy or two from scratch. We're going to extract and download the open, high, low, close data, stuff that into ChatGPT, very technical term. We're going to generate a trading strategy from that data, back test the strategy, and we're going to create a little custom indicator or tool. Nothing crazy, nothing wild, but it's giving you the process, right? Now, this is going to be revolutionary. You go, wow, that's the most amazing strategy I've ever seen. This is going to absolutely smash the Medallion Fund, the Renaissance Capital into the dust. I'm going to make so much money. No. It's just they're interesting, right? They are definitely interesting, and I've definitely picked some good ones for you. But the idea is the theme and the process. You can go away and say, right, I've got the plan, I've got the blueprint of how to do this. Now let me grab that and kind of push it into the way that I trade. And maybe you don't want an indicator, maybe you do. It's up to you. But these are kind of little tiny little tools. They're not very complex, but it just shows you the process and how you'd kind of do it. Okay, so I also, the final thing on this, and if like I'm banging the drum a little bit, but hopefully you understand, AI is sometimes NI is just no intelligence. It really is some stupid sometimes. It can get things wrong badly. The output can be totally incorrect, as you will see. And it was a really good example of this. I thought, I'm putting this in. This is real world prompting and going head scratch. Is that? Let me reverse it, and we'll show how we kind of go backwards, and then we kind of get the result we want. Always double check everything. Just be smart, guys. You're a trader. You're smart. I hope. Okay. So before we begin the process, we have to think of this. What sort of strategy do you want to develop? Which market, which time frame? So to bring them, last week we talked about bring those boundaries in a little bit, just bring the structure in a bit. We need to give ChatGPT a little bit to go on. We need to say, hey, listen, I'm going to trade the DAX or the Dow or Euro USD or, dollar yen or whatever it might be. And I want a kind of mean reversion or a trending or both. I want to use a stop loss, or I don't care about stop loss. I just want to see themes for now. Let's give it some boundaries. So worth writing down, get a pen and paper, write down and say, hey, this is the kind of outline what I'm trying to do, right? This is the market I'm trying to trade, blah, 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 anything else to consider. And that just helps later. It just helps you time, right? Helps it not go down a rabbit hole that you don't want it to go down. Okay, so, and our goal here, and I want you to think a little bit like a startup, okay? So we're not trying to develop a massive, robust standalone strategy like the quant firms might do, and they go back and they go 28 years back and they go through all different market cycles and interest rate cycles and bull markets, bear markets, conditions, etc. That's not a job, right? Think like a startup, okay? You're probably a discretionary trader like I, and you like to look at the market and price action and make a decision. The way that we make decisions is we say, hey, this has happened before in history, and this was the outcome. So I'm going to make an assumption, and we have risk management in place if the assumptions work. But we have to have some kind of assumption, but that pattern will repeat itself again, and I'm going to position for that. So imagine exhaustion bar, right? We know an exhaustion bar, generally speaking, at the end of an extended move with a big range, with a reasonable volume, that can indicate exhaustion, downside, upside, etc. There's loads of context and other stuff that goes into it, but you kind of give you a rough example. As a discretionary traders, we might be positioned and say, hey, I'm going to wait for what I tag as an exhaustion bar because I have seen previously that is sometimes a precursor for a reversal. So I'm going to make the assumption, and we never know, right? Or trading never knows. Anyone tells you they know is a complete liar. Nobody knows, right? We're going to make that assumption that in this context, and if we see this, this, and this, our triggers, in this case, exhaustion bar, that we could see a reversal. That could be a precursor for reversal. So that's what we do as discretionary traders, right? We look at this. So I want you to think, go into this through the lens of you're like a startup, right? A startup business. And a startup business constantly pivots, adjusts, adapts, right? They build something, they throw it out to the market, they test it, and they go, it's working. And if it doesn't work, they build something quick. And the best startups, if you've ever read business books about startups or entrepreneurs and stuff, the best entrepreneurs and businesses are the ones that actually go quick. So they have an idea, they test it quickly, they put it to market, see if it works. No, it doesn't work, pull it out, do it again, test it. So this is what I want you to think of when you're doing this. Okay. So we have an idea. You're observing the market. You're looking at the DAX, you're looking at the Dow, looking at the market that you like to trade. We can test it very quickly with ChatGPT and decide whether we're going to implement that in our own trading or not. And again, we're not saying we follow the strategy that it spits out, but you'll see the themes that we come up with, and then we go, right, should we use that? Is that valuable information? Are we finding the strongest hour, weakest hour? Do we do some gap analysis? Whatever it might be. And we're thinking quickly. And if we don't see anything, we discard it. And then we trade and we observe, we mark up the charts at the end of the day. We go, do you know what? When I see a strong, in fact, we had this on the Traders Mastermind call last week. One trader came in and he said, hey, listen, I've noticed this kind of pattern with DAX. Let's look into it. Now, we dug into it and ChatGPT wasn't playing ball, but the idea was he'd observed it let's quickly test it with ChatGPT very easily. Now, when you see it's reasonably robust, you can run with it for a little bit until it breaks. So that's kind of the idea there. Okay, so we're not performing this robust deep back testing over multiple market cycles, right? We're just not. We are trying to find little patterns that are of interest. Now, could you do that? You probably could, but that's not what we're doing today. We're discretionary traders looking for short-term measures we can take advantage of. All right, so some ideas, just glancing over and checking everything is well on my other screen. So, volatility patterns we could look at, seasonal time analysis, pre-market, earnings announcement impact, opening range breakout, midday lulls, end of day price reversion, gap analysis, all this type of stuff I've got in there. I don't have to mention all of it, but you get the idea. There's so much we can do. So let's pick one and let's come up with a brief. So here's our brief. Time of day analysis on the DAX. Okay. We're going to use 15-minute intervals and let's try to identify a pattern we could use to our advantage. Let's keep it simple for now for this kind of process and going through everything here. Let's try and identify the weakest or strongest hour, see if there's a pattern to that, and thinking, hey, well, if we can identify a persistently strong hour in the trading day that maybe is more than random, could we then trade from the long side or peel that into our existing strategy, knowing that there's maybe an edge there? All become clear in a moment, but you can see what we're trying to do, hopefully. We're trying to look at the fact we've observed something. Maybe you're a DAX trader yourself, or this could be any market, really, but I'm going to use DAX as an example. And I'm going to use S&P 500 in a little bit, but it could be anything. It could be gold, could be crude, could be natty gas, it could be anything, right? You then say, right, this would help me because if I knew there was a persistently strong hour, 15-minute, 5-minute, whatever it might be, I'm going to maybe align with that. Maybe I'm going to say, hey, well, if I see a setup or pattern that I like to trade within that hour that aligns with the direction that I think it's going to go, then I might add a little bit more edge to my trade. Okay, so step one, we're going to download open, high, low, close data. Now, I'm going to run through an example with TradingView because that's the platform I happen to have. It's very, very easy. It's very, very simple. I think I'm on the premium or I don't know what I want, but I don't think it's that expensive. You can trade directly to Pepperstone through TradingView. So there's your advantage there. I know many of you use it. Now, if you don't have TradingView, there are so many other sources you can get this open, high, low, close data from. A little bit of Googling from me, didn't dig in too much, but just to give you some different kind of options here. Yahoo Finance was one, NASDAQ.com for stock data. First Rate Data, I think, was a kind of premium one out there, in bar chart. Now, some of these are premium, some of these are paid. And I think that soon ChatGPT will just hook into a data source and you'll just say, and in fact, it used to with the plugins. I don't know what's happened to that. Maybe you can ask Maxim at the end. Maxim, isn't it? I think it's probably Maxim at the end of the series. So soon you'll be able to just hook it into it. So lots of options, free and paid. I'm going to use TradingView. So how to download your data from TradingView? Obviously, decide on the market you want. So in this case, we're going to use the DAX, the time frame you're looking at, because what happens is whatever chart you've got up on your screen, that's the data it will download, right? So if you have euro dollar up 1 minute, it will download open, high, low, close data on the 1 minute time frame for euro dollar. If you have daily Tesla chart up, then it's going to obviously download that. So decide on the market you want. In this case, we want to use the DAX. So we use German 40 and you can use the Pepperstone feed for that. It's probably the one that's load up into your platform. The time frame we're looking at, in this case, we're going to use 15 minutes. We're going to use a 15-minute open, high, low, close, and we bring the chart up, okay? Now, just like this, bring the chart up, German 40, 15-minute chart, blah, blah, blah. I've got some other bits and pieces on there. Doesn't matter so much. Okay, so now in the top right, by the name of your layout, there's a little drop-down box, save all this kind of stuff here. We've got export chart data. So we click that. Oh, whoops, let me go back. There we go. We click that. And it comes up the pop-up box on the right. That then says, hey, this is the chart. And it gives you a drop down and ability to choose some ISO time or Unix timestamp. So I've always chosen ISO time. That's just the default for me because I prompt ChatGPT to recognize that this is in ISO time, and I always know what around there. I just think just stick to one. I don't think it matters as long as you tell ChatGPT what it is, and maybe there's some advantages using one or the other. I don't know, and frankly, I don't really care so much. I just want to make sure that I know this is where you can slip up, right? You can slip up by mix and matching with it. So just get used to using one. And I use ISO time because I know that I always prompt it and say, this is ISO time, ChatGPT. So it should know, right? Then he comes up with a little confirmation box at the bottom of your screen. File saved to download folder, blah, 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 blah. And in my downloads folder, there it is. It's whatever it is, the name, Pepperstone, Lola, and some random letters. I don't know why it labels it that, but it doesn't matter. You can easily identify it. Okay, so that's how we've exported the chart data. We've loaded the instrument we want. We've selected the time frame we want, and then we've gone and we've done export chart data. That's given us now a decent amount of data. We've changed it to ISO time. We've got that in a CSV format in our download folder or whatever settings you've got set on TradingView. Okay, that's the easy part. That's simple. And by the way, if you're using one of the other providers, you just download it in CSV. I've not tried it with anything else. I don't know. I'm assuming you could probably use other different data sources as long as you inform ChatGPT the format of that. It's pretty smart to be able to work it out most of the time. It will show some errors in a moment, but hey, so get the CSV file, drag it over into ChatGPT, or you just go to upload. You know how to upload stuff, guys. I don't know, tell you how to do the most basic of stuff, but upload your file to ChatGPT, hit enter, and just see if it understands what the file is. I like to just give it a little test, right? Here you go. It is the grenade CSV file, open, hello, close data. What do you make of that, pal? Stick it to ChatGPT and see what it says. Then we give it some context and we ask a few questions to test the data. Very, very important, this. I've come a cropper with this before, and I don't want you to do the same. I've stuck my hand in the fire and gone, is that hot? Well, yeah, it is. And I've pulled it out, and I don't need to do that. I've made a mistake with that before. So here is the screenshots, lots of screenshots today from ChatGPT. Any questions, of course, stick them in the Q&A. We'll glance at them if it's something pertinent to now. Otherwise, I'll leave it till the end if that's all right with you. Okay, so we've loaded it in. Bing, we're in CSV file in. Don't forget how we did the process to get that. And it says, comes up. I'm not even giving any prompt in here. I've just said, there you go. There you go. CSV. And it said, right, this is what we've got. I've got time, open, high, low, close, VWAP and volume is the first few rows. And it's given me kind of rough. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to be more specific. So the specificity of what it is. This is open, high, low, close data for the DAX. And I didn't mention 15 minutes, actually. Interestingly, later on I did, so it probably picked it up, but that's just a mistake on my half. I think be as accurate as you can be, but you can always pick up the slack later if you haven't quite done it because you'll recognize it's screwed up. Open high low close data for DAX in ISO time. Please check it and tell me how many days worth of data you have. What is the starting date and the open high low close for the DAX on the 7th of May, 1:30 UK time? I'll be like, Mark, why are you asking it this most bizarre question? So what I'm doing here is this. I want to double check that I've got a decent amount of data because you don't really get to see, especially from TradingView, how much data you've got. Sometimes you download it. I think someone might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here. It depends on how much you've got in the view in the chart. Might be, might not be. Sometimes I get 4 days worth. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? But then if I zoom right in or right out, I get more. I don't know specifically what you do with TradingView and what it downloads, but I think it's related to how much you've got in your chart view. I think, but test it out for yourself. Play around. That's what the fun part of this. I don't want to spoil the fun for you. How many days of data you've got? So I want to know if it's a kind of reasonable amount of data. Remember, we're trading like a startup here. We're not going to quantitative back testing millions of years. We just want the current conditions, and we're trying to test a thesis and a theory. Okay, what's the starting date of the data? And I've picked a random date here. Why have I done that? Because I want to check it. So it says number of days worth of data, 51 days. Okay, fine. Starting date goes back to the 26th of April. All right, that's enough for what I'm trying to do at the moment. And it's given the open, high, low, close for 1:30 UK time. Okay, so why have I asked that? Because I want to I'm just obsessed with making sure the time is correct, because this is where stuff gets screwed up, because you can go so deep and you can go and get such interesting info. And if you haven't understood the time frame you're trading in, you can be then implementing it and you're trading on London time, the damn thing's in exchange time, or GMT. You just don't even go there. It could be an absolute mess. So I've said, hey, I want to know what it is in UK time. And why have I done that? Because I want to now go back to TradingView, go back to the data window on TradingView, and I know that my x-axis is in UK time, and I've got a random day, and I could just cross-check that the data that's on TradingView and the time on TradingView is the same that ChatGPT understands. Okay, so I've got my open, high, low, close. I open my data window for the instrument, in this case DAX or Pepperstone's DAX equivalent, 15-minute chart, and I check and I go, yeah, open, high, low, close. That is perfect. I'm happy with that. 7th of May, 1:30. 7th of May, 1:30. Good. We're good to go. We know that the data is aligning with what I'm thinking it is and what it means. That's fine. Okay, so the next step is we go back to week one. Remember that prompt formula: persona, context, task, input, format. You don't always have to use all of it, but it helps to give you that kind of broad idea, and then kind of stick in what you think you need. Just don't get sloppy. And listen, I'll admit, if I can take a shortcut, I'll take a shortcut. And sometimes I'll miss out stuff and I regret it. Like, listen, just stick with the formula, Mark. This formula is there for a reason. If it's very, very obvious why not to include something, then fine. But it just saves headache, because often it'll go down rabbit holes and you're like, no, 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 come back, son, come back. I don't want you to go that way. I want you to go that way. And you go, my fault. I didn't give you the correct direction. So stick to the formula, or your own version of this if you can. Okay, so here we go. It's got the data. Reminder, we download the data. It's got the data. The data's clean. We think it's good. Let's go. You're a data analyst in charge of generating new intraday trading strategy ideas. I'm a trader looking to find intraday edge in the DAX, specifically by conducting time period analysis. So we had those ideas of what we could do, and we kind of said, but actually, this would be more interesting. We've given it some specificity. You can also ask ChatGPT to ask you how to say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me how I could interrogate this data for edge. And it'll give you some suggestions, just like some of those you guys doing the homework saying, hey, I asked it to give me suggestions, right? I want you to look at this 15-minute open, high, low, close data and tell me how I should analyze the data to help find an intraday trading strategy. So I think I've been pretty clear there, right? I said what I am, what I'm looking for, who you are, your persona, some context. Did I add some context? I didn't really add any massive context there. The task and kind of what I want from it. Okay, so it's kind of said now, we can follow several analytical steps to identify potential trading edges. And by the way, there's a few of these screenshots. I'm not going to go kind of read everything. I will read the stuff that I believe is valuable for you. Okay, you will, if you're here, get a copy of this to go back and be able to kind of review. So if you want to note down the time to go back and easily look at it, then do that. Take a screenshot. You're very welcome, of course. I'm not going to kind of read through every little thing, but if something's important to you, then do that. Okay, so it gives you some ideas, right? Descriptive statistics. It says trend analysis, time-based patterns, statistical test. Now, I look at this and I go, volume analysis. Okay, identify time periods of high trading volume. Oh, well, it's kind of going to be the open and the close, right? And probably US Open as well, if it's DAX. I know that. So I don't know how it's going to help me, but thanks, pal. Volatility analysis, and that's probably going to be the same. Open's going to be volatile. US Open's going to be volatile. DAX close is going to be volatile. Okay. Price patterns, yeah. Trend analysis applies short-term moving averages to the trend. None of this is interesting so far, but that's okay, because I've already decided I want to do some time-based analysis. Okay, time-based patterns, hourly performance. This is what we're trying to do. Aggregate data by hour to identify specific hours with consistent bullish or bearish behavior. Yes, please. Going back to why, because if we can identify a theme where there's a strong, persistently strong hour or weak hour in the DAX, and we're a DAX trader, then why would we not want to align with that on the assumption that we might get a repeat of history? We don't know. That's why we have a stop in place. You see where we're going with it. And it says statistical tests, t-tests, ANOVA, correlation analysis, check. Above my pay grade, simple trader looking for edge. Maybe that will give me something, but I don't know if I'll trust the output. Maybe if I wanted to go down the rabbit hole, I could open another ChatGPT window and go, explain this, like I'm 15, explain this to me so that I can understand it and how it's going to be relevant to me as a trader. So that's okay, right? But I'm not interested in that. So, but I'm interested in 3. All right. So, and it carries on. Actually, I've noticed the new version does this a lot. Whereas the older version would stop and ask you for a prompt. The new version kind of goes and goes and goes. And sometimes you have to stop it. There's a little stop button pops up actually on here. This is the app version I've got. I think it's the Mac app version. And a little stop button pops up there by the microphone normally. So you can stop it if it's going off on a tangent. But let it go through, let it run. Doesn't take long. And it says, okay, volume volatility analysis. And it basically says, okay, so we are going to key findings, active periods, volatile periods, next steps, hourly performance analysis, technical indicator, blah, 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 blah. This stuff is kind of not that interesting. The next screenshot, a bit more interesting, right? It's stuff that we already know, but at least I know that at least I know it's reading the data correctly. And we'll skip here to straight to key observations, okay? So it says most active periods, 8 till 9. Well, no, Sherlock, because that's when that market opens. 2 till 3. Yeah, again, US market opening at 2:30. Most volatile periods, exactly the same. We knew this. Best performing hours. Aha. Gotcha. Here we go. Now we've opened the treasure chests, so to speak. Okay, so it says 1 a.m. Nah, it's probably a 4 pip movement or something. 4 a.m. Nah, same nonsense. 10 a.m. Okay, maybe interesting. 3 o'clock. All right. 3 o'clock US Open. Bit of data comes out. All right, all right. Let's have a look at that. So, okay, so it now says focus on those areas. Blah, 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 blah. But I've already got what I'm interested in. I've already extracted that kernel. I go, best performance hours. So it's given me, it said, okay, look, these 4 hours, not interested in the early ones. All right, 3 o'clock. So go, okay. And actually, this is where it makes a mistake. So I've already, let's go back. I've done this and I've said, and it's preliminarily, got that right, told us that's a strong hour based on the data it's got. Hasn't really given us much more context around, which I don't like. I do not like ChatGPT or just gives an answer. I'm like, no, 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 pal. I know what your game is. You often make a mistake. So let's just do this step by step. And I want to make sure I'm watching you. So that's exactly what we do. So anyway, there we go. It makes a mistake. Here we go. Okay. So I say to it, focusing, can't spell, on the 3 to 4 p.m. data window now. Tell me the results of buying DAX at 3 o'clock and closing it at 4. Show me the results in a table and show each trade along with the summary performance. And it does this kind of aggregated table, misses out some of the kind of middle rows, and I go, okay, what's the total P&L for this trade using the data given? The total P&L for the trade is 2,634 pips. And I say, okay, show me an equity curve for that strategy, please, based on a £5 a point position. So if you're a spread bet, you know what that means. If you do trade spread bet, and it kind of shows me this equity curve. And I think to myself, 2,634 pips. 2,006. I'm thinking, come on, this doesn't, it's something's just, smell. That smells like bull, it doesn't smell right. So I'm like, okay, something doesn't look right here. And this is really good. I'm so glad I did this because I want to show you why we need to double check, triple check, go, whoa, step back from the ledge there, ChatGPT. You ain't right. So I was like, 640 trades. Because I asked it, said, how many trades were there? It says 640. And I thought, hang on a second, you only had 50 odd days worth of data. You don't take it, that doesn't make any sense. So I said, okay, did you have 640 days worth of data? And it goes, sheepish. Well, actually, it contains 51 days of data. Given that each day has a single trade from 3 to 4, the number of trades should be equal to the number of trading days. Well, duh. Well done. This is interesting because it's made an error, but we have to spot the error at the moment. Now, whether it gets better over time, I'm sure it does. But this is why, with a perfect example, why we should never trust and we should always double check. And just that intuitive, like this, I'm not just going to go down and assume it's right. It's going to double check everything it's said. 640, 2,500 pips. No, nah, come on. Okay, let me just, there's the issue. And it says, okay, the presence of 640 trades suggests it's an issue. I will recheck the calculations to ensure accuracy. You do that, son. You do that. Let's investigate the dates and the trades to confirm the number of unique days. Okay, so we've spotted it. We've alerted it to it. Now let's see if it can repair this. Okay, so It says the data set contains 51 unique trading days. The presence of 640 trades indicates there's a duplication issue in the data merging process. I don't care what the error is, just fix it. I will correct the data merging to ensure each day is represented only once in the trades. Okay, so now we get 40 trades. That makes sense. It's going to be some Sunday stuff in there because it's a 24/5 product with a little bit of Sunday for Pepperstone, right? And this makes more sense. Okay, 40 days, total P&L, 289 pips. Okay, that's more reasonable. Let's not get around to whether I like it yet, but I'm still in data verification mode here in my brain. And it's kind of gone and said, okay, here's the updated equity curve for £5 a point, and just an arbitrary value on a spread bet, right? And a kind of equity curve is here, and we see it go from here, 0, drawdown, push up, 1250, and it's ending at about just shy of 1,500 sheets. Okay, so this feels like it could be accurate. And again, we always double check, we triple check, and all this other stuff, and I will reiterate that. We can see how it makes an error. But let's go back now to the efficacy of what we found. This is reasonably good, right? I don't say I'm too happy about this here. This is a pretty nasty drawdown, if I'm honest. Bit of a drawdown beginning, but generally speaking, there may be something there. I think we could all agree. It's not going to revolutionize anything, but there seems to be some kind of theme there. So let's dig in a little bit more. And it starts to kind of plot the P&L and the return that you get on each of these trades. 40 trades, total return, average return, blah, 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 best trade, worst trade, etc. Now, I understand that sometimes we've got data here, and there's plenty of reasons why this won't specifically be a great thing to look at. But it's the process and blueprint that I want to share with you. And, you take it for what it's worth. Okay, so now I say to it, all right, can you give me some strategy improvement suggestions, right? I'm quite open with this, and I didn't include the screenshot I did. And this is where I kind of let it guide me. So we'll go back to the kind of week one. You can choose where to guide it, or you can ask ChatGPT to help you and give me some suggestions on improvements. So it says it goes away and it says, I'm going to calculate the MAE and MFE. And just as let's go off track for a moment. MAE and MFE stand for this: maximum adverse excursion, MAE, maximum favorable excursion, MFE. Very, very useful metric for your trading journal. So what does this mean? Maximum adverse excursion means what's the maximum the trade went against you before you close the position. So let me give you an example. Let's say you bought doesn't matter what you bought at. Let's say it went against you 50 pips, and then finally when you close for 100 pip profit, your maximum adverse excursion is that 50 pips, because that's the worst it went before you close the trade. Right now, actually, if you went down, you closed it at 50 pips, it just went straight down, you were long, it would still be 50 pips. But it's the worst position you were in during the trade. Now, maximum favorable excursion is how far the trade went in your favor, the maximum profit you could potentially have taken. So let's use that example. Let's say it went down 50 pips, rocketed up 100 pips, and then pulled back 50 pips, you close the trade. Your maximum favorable excursion would have been 100 pips, because that's potentially the maximum you could have had, but actually you close the trade at 50 pips. So you can see how that tells you a little bit more about the trade, more depth about the quality of the trade, rather than just P&L off the trade. You could say, I closed that trade for 50 pips, but if your maximum adverse excursion was 500 pips, I would say to you, sir, I don't think that's a very, very effective strategy. Same if you said to me, hey, I closed at 50 pips, but my maximum favorable excursion was 5,000 pips. I'd be like, oh, you gave a lot back. Was there a reason for it? Was it part of the plan? You get the idea. And so, we want, and what we can do, well, let me get to that in a moment. So, it says, okay, I'm going to calculate the MA and MFE, and it comes up and it says, right, let's go down to this section here. I think this is slightly out of order. Average MA and MFE. So the average maximum adverse excursion was 23 pips. Average maximum favorable excursion was 32 pips. Okay, so let me just kind of pause things for a moment. So what we can do, if we forget ChatGPT for a moment and go to our trading journal, and imagine we've got our MAE and MFE, we can use those to set profit targets and stop loss criteria. How? So give me a rough example without going off track too much. And you may have heard this before, but bear with me for just 2 minutes while I cover this, because it's important. I think you'll find it valuable as well. If you have let's say you've got a minus 50 pips stop loss. Let's just imagine it's an arbitrary fixed stop loss of minus 50 pips. Okay. And you find out that actually many of your trades go against you, say 30 pips. Your maximum adverse excursion on your profitable trades is 30 pips. Okay. And then it goes in your favor. And let's forget about the target for now. You see that and you say, but actually, the trades that go further than 30 pips, the ones that are 30, the ones that are well, above 30, often hit my stop. So in that scenario, you might surmise that actually I don't need a 50 pip stop. A lot of my trades are going against me initially and going my way, but most of the trades that go further than that are stopping me out. So why do I need a 50 pip stop? I could probably use a 40 pip stop. Hopefully you get the idea, right? Or another way of looking at it is you say, well, actually, my maximum adverse excursion is like 80% of the time it's 30 pips. Okay, that's an entry issue. You're a little bit early. And so you then strategize and go, how can I become more effective at my entries, knowing that historically my trading journal suggests that my maximum adverse excursion is around 30 pips on a lot of my trades. I can probably wait a little bit. I could probably just hold back, maybe buy a little bit lower, put some bids in, resting bids in the case of a long, and use that to my advantage. We're going to dig into this in week 4, where we really dig into using extracting valuable information from your own trading journal. So we'll dig into stuff like this in week 4, but I wanted to kind of just plant some seeds now. I know many of you are familiar with this already, so fine. But yeah, and similarly with MFE, right? If you've constantly given back profit, if your MFE is constantly 100 pips, like hey, 80% of my trades have got an MFE 100 pips and I'm taking 50 pips, you need to be a bit more aggressive with taking profits. I think you get the idea. Okay, so a ChatGPT does all this and it says the average, which there's obviously limitations with an average, but let's just take it. It says, okay, we can adjust and improve the strategy by you putting a stop loss at 23 pips and a take profit at 32 pips. And there's knocking microphones over, so excited. And again, so excited. We don't know for sure, right? This is the most effective way of doing it. But let's go down this rabbit hole. Let it do it. And there are some holes in this that are fine, but let's try it out. Okay, so what are the net results using the new stop and limits? And it says, okay, if we use a stop of 23 pips based on the maximum adverse excursion, so it's gone on, it's calculated how far the trade's gone against us before it's gone in our favor on average. And again, it's not the best way of doing it, but that'll do for now. And it said, okay, let's just put a structure around that. And we're winning trades and we're losing trades. Net P&L $1,600 bucks, pounds. We're in sterling here, so the strategy yielded a net profit of £1,609.50. Hypothetical, don't forget, all that type of stuff over the analyzed periods. Okay, there were more winning trades than losing trades, yada, 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 yada. And actually, if we go back, I think we were slightly and in fact, I don't even need to go back because I have an equity curve comparison. I said, hey, plot the strategy with the stop loss and take profit over the original strategy. Now, there isn't much difference, and bear in mind this is hypothetical. This is history. We don't know if it's going to repeat itself, but you know what the objective is we're trying to do here. With this new stop loss strategy, we didn't have so much drawdown at the beginning, and we didn't have that horrible. Is that what we 1,300 down to 6 or 50% drawdown? That's unpleasant. I don't think many people would want to stick through that, but this smooths it off. Okay, so even though we're pretty much the same in terms of total hypothetical P&L on this trade, historical data, it's a little bit of a smoother equity curve that we can stomach, right? So we can see how we can improve strategy. We can develop a strategy idea. We've used it and said, hey, by the way, can you, we want to find the strong part of the strong hour of the DAX, and we want to kind of develop a potential strategy from that. And it said, okay, well, let me do this, do that, do the other. And we've said, okay, well, how can we improve the performance? It said, let me look at MA and MFE. Said, okay, carry on. Now show me those visually because I want to be able to see them, what the equity curve would look like if we run one strategy with no stop loss and no take profit, and the other strategy using the MAE and MFE of that strategy as a stop loss and a take profit. There is so much more we could do, ladies and gentlemen. There is so much more we could do. And you may well be sitting there writing notes going, well, I would probably look to see the worst trade, the best trade. I would do this. And I appreciate we're over time when sometimes there's data. There are so many things here that need looking at and addressing. But you get the idea. We have gone through in a very, very short period of time. And bear in mind, I've kind of gone through and explained bits and pieces along the way, but it has not taken us long, and it will not take you long to get the data you want, to chuck it to ChatGPT and to ask. And in fact, not to jump the gun, I suggest that's a great homework assignment for you. The market you trade, euro dollar, gold, crude, natty, what do you trade? What do you like to trade? What time frame? And just start to experiment. Write down a list of things you'd quite like to know. What's the strongest hour? What's the weakest hour? Okay. And the reason I've kind of asked it to replicate a trading strategy here is because visually I want to see what would happen if I had bought it at that time. I want to see it visually because I'm a very visual person. Obviously, I work with charts. You work with charts too. So the numbers looks okay to me when I see it in format, but I want to see, okay, what will the equity curve look like if we normalize the entry, blah, 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 and how can I compare it to? So this is where we've got to. And so we've gone through that process. We've asked it to improve the strategy. And now we know that actually historically, and again, we don't take it for granted. I say, and let me just backpedal on the we know, because we don't know if it's accurate. There's all this other stuff we've got to double check ourselves. But if we kind of went with that and said, okay, that period has been strong, this is what would happen if you bought it at that period. Okay, so knowing that, moving forward, I've got a couple of options. I can either use that data and trade from that. Again, wouldn't recommend that. You go and you double check and triple check and double. This could all be wrong. And I reiterated that at the beginning, and I'll say it again. Or you could say, okay, maybe that is something that I note down. So now if I see a long trigger, a trigger trade, a long trade triggered, i.e., all back to support, a little Wyckoff spring, high tight flag in that hour, then I might assume that actually there's going to be a reasonably strong hour. That's a little bit more of a reason for me to take that trade and pull the trigger on that deal, because actually, I've got that historic, very short term, but kind of there's a little bit of a theme there that's some reason that seems to be strong. I don't know why, but some reason that's strong. So maybe if I see a technical pattern I already trade within that hour, I might want to take it. Hopefully you get the idea with this. All right, let's look at another example. Okay, let's test a well-known theory. Turnaround Tuesday. You might have heard of this one. Maybe have, maybe haven't. So Turnaround Tuesday basically says, there's the data. Let's just quickly go at Turnaround Tuesday. So Turnaround Tuesday basically says this, and you can Google it and kind of have a look at all the stats on it as well. But I want to know for myself. So that's why we're using ChatGPT. Turnaround Tuesday suggests, and there's little variations, but generally speaking, if Monday, this is the US market, by the way. So we're talking about SPOT, S&P 500, and NASDAQ as well, I guess. But if Monday was weak, very often Tuesday is strong. So it's called Turnaround Tuesday. Okay. There's some variations like a Monday. If Monday's weak, then Tuesday morning, sometimes a week in the afternoon strong. You have to sometimes people say Friday and Monday have to be weak. It's like Santa Rally. Some people are making stuff up as they go along, right? But let's look at it. Let's test it. Let's try it out. Let's see if this is accurate. Let's see if we can build some sort of theme around it. Okay. So don't need to go through the process with you. You know what we're doing. We're using open, high, low, close daily data because all we're interested in is the strength of that day, right? We're just interested in the open, high, low, close, and we're going to use that as a foundation for our strategy. Not interested at this moment in looking at intraday data. Now, is it something you could explore later? Absolutely. You absolutely could. But my job is to kind of give you the ideas and themes and tools and steps to do this, and you go away with yourself. Okay. So I said, this is open, high, low, close daily data. Please look at the CSV in review. And I hit enter. And I hit enter too soon. It went, it appears that the file is missing. And I went, yes, because I haven't put the file in yet. Anyway, I put the file in. There we go. I use the same procedure as I did before, but I just use daily data. And the reason I'm using SPY, by the way, maybe I should mention that. The reason I'm using SPY here is that it's an ETF of the S&P 500. So you can trade the S&P 500. What do they, Pepperstone call it? The US 500. Yes, US 500, right? And that's basically the CFD product, the spread bet product for the S&P 500. The reason I use SPY is because it's a bit cleaner for trading view perspective to see the gaps. Pepperstone luxury trading 24/5 S&P 500. SPY, I just want to use regular trading hours. So 2:30 till 9 p.m. There's my kind of session. And I want to kind of be able to know, I know ahead of time that I'm going to want to interrogate data at the close, the bell, 9 p.m. bell, and the open, the 2:30 open. I want to be able to initiate trades or close trades at those points. I just think it's easier for me to have that nailed down. And I know that the open is this time and close that time rather than adding 24-hour data and then try to say, well, the close is here and blah, blah, blah. So that's why I've used SPY. Okay, so um, this is interesting, right? You saw a glimpse of that funny slide. I've kind of uploaded the data and it's got all this stuff in which um, there's nothing in it. It says upper Bollinger Band contains NAN. Da, 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 da. You know, I don't even know if their stuff was on there. I very much doubt it. If it was suppressed. It's very, very unlikely for me to have this type of stuff on there. So I uploaded it. I went, okay, this is where it gets interesting. I said, clean the data. So all we have is open, high, low, close. It says the data has been cleaned because that's all I want. I don't care about any other stuff. Just clean it for me. It's been cleaned to include the open, high, low, close values. You can now review the clean data set. If you have any further ideas, further analysis or visualizations, let me know. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing there. So give me a 5-day random sample to check. I provided a random 5-day sample of the open, high, low, close data for you to check. If you need further assistance or analysis, there's no table. There's nothing there. I'm like, you being a bit naughty today, aren't you? You told me you had the data. It wasn't there. So I said, well, show me in table format, please. I didn't say please. I should have said please. Maybe be a bit more accommodating with my requests. So anyway, it's ChatGPT. It does what it wants, guys. Give me a 5-day random sample data. And why have I done that? You remember, I want to cross-check the data with the data window on TradingView, and this is what I've done. So I pick 3 random days here, and I go to TradingView and I check SPY. I double-check. This is important, super important. If you take anything away from today, this should be one of them because you can get caught out with the times and dates and messing about, and it's out of sync. So let's just double-check that ChatGPT sees the same thing that I do on my chart. Easily done. Check a day. Is that the open? Is that the high? Is that the low? Is that the close? Open, high, yes, 18, close. I did it with that day, and I also did it with this day because these are the days I checked. And yes, it all looks fine. So I'm happy that the data is clean. I'm happy the data is in line. I'm happy everything is good. Everything is happy with that. Okay, data looks good. Let's begin. Remember our formula, ladies and gentlemen. Persona, context, task, input, format. What are we trying to do? Remember, we're trying to guide it and work out the turnaround Tuesday. So I say to it this. You are a data analyst at a prop firm. I'm looking to test the theory of turnaround Tuesday in the S&P 500. I want to generate a potential trading strategy around it. You are to analyze this data with the goal of finding an edge around the turnaround Tuesday concept. You have the open, high, low, close data from SPY. Let's start with a table showing day of the week, percentage time that day was up. And then it does the game again. It says the table shows the percentage, blah, blah. Where's the table? Anyway, shows me a table. And it says 58% of the time, it kind of gives me these percentages. And I'm like, all right, this was really a first step. I kind of know we're in a bull market. This isn't really anything to do with turnaround Tuesday. I just want to see, just curious, just do the analysis. So anyway, I said, okay, so now I'd like to look at Monday to Tuesday relationship. If Monday was down, what percentage of the time was Tuesday up? Okay. And now it comes up with an error. And this is good because I show you, and you've done the experimentation yourself, it sometimes throws errors. And we had the other day, in Traders Mastermind, the community, we do these weekly trader calls and we're doing it live. I was showing my screen, we're looking at this DAX analysis on a 5-minute and it was just breaking. Like we got so far and there was an edge there. We're like, there's edge. And we just ran out of time before we push any further. So it happens. Okay. So it happened here, but it managed to fix itself. It said there's an error. There was an issue, not error, an issue. Very diplomatic ChatGPT. Calculating the percentage. Let me investigate further and ensure the calculation is done correctly. So now it comes up and says when Monday's down, Tuesday was up approximately 58.5% of the time. That's better than we had just on its own, right? 51.2%, 0.3. Okay, so a few screenshots here. Bear with me, get some juicy stuff in a moment. Would you like to proceed? What about a Friday and Monday down? And I kind of go around these rabbit holes. It says Friday, Monday down, Tuesday was up approximately 56.2% of the time. And I take down face value and I go, you know what? Well, let's sack off Friday because that's less than that 58% we had here, 58.5. Let me look at Monday. Let me forget Friday for now. I was probably getting ahead of myself. So I said, okay, that's okay, the percentage of time, but we get paid, the more we're right. Okay, if one day is 400 points up, then bingo, jackpot. If one day's up two, next day's up three, next day's up two, it takes a lot of those to make up that 400. So the magnitude of the move is important if you're a spread bet CFD trader, right? So what about if Monday, let's look at the magnitude of the move now. I start to prompt it and push it in that direction. What about if Monday was down more than 1% or greater than 1%? And what percentage of the time was Tuesday up? So I kind of give it some guidance. I say, I want to see the magnitude of the move. And let's start. And I start to think, well, maybe it's a big heavy down or reasonable heavy down day, 1% heavy, heavier than normal down day, let's say. Does that affect Tuesday's results? Error again, error again. Then it finally comes up with something. Again, this is why we double check stuff. We never take it on face value. We must double check it because it comes up with errors. And sometimes it will say something with such certainty. Like we saw that example with the DAX trade 640 trades. Well, how many days a day have you got? 51. Well, how many trades taken a day? One. Well, how does that make six? You get the point. You've got to just be careful. Anyway, it says now Tuesday was up 55.88% of the time when it's more than 1%. So we're kind of losing the efficacy a little bit. I'm kind of dabbling around and I'm playing around with it. And it said here, would you like to further analysis? Listen, when it's struggling to give the answer you want, and I kind of was fighting with it a bit and battling, and just roll it back and ask it something simple. When you go down a rabbit hole and it almost like it learns something, ChatGPT learns something, and then it keeps going there and you have to roll it back. Like sometimes you open a door and once it's in that door, it struggles to know to get out of the door. I don't know, maybe that's a technology, something you can ask the expert in week 5, but it's almost like once you go down there, it's very difficult for it to reverse itself. So you have to say, hey, go back to this point and let me test it with something simple, or ask it how it should proceed. So how should you proceed? Tell me, ChatGPT, you're the expert, you're the artificial intelligence, I'm a mere human. You tell me how to proceed. And then that helps stuff. Okay, so I use option 2 here. And I said, using your own judgment, remembering your role. What was the role again? Prop firm data analyst, I think so, hedge fund data, the role anyway we gave it. How should we proceed to find edge and turn around Tuesday? Because I've been battling. I've been trying to do this. So Friday, more than 1%, less than 1%. I'm like, you know what? You tell me, ChatGPT, what would you do if you were a data analyst? Because I'm not a data analyst. I'm just a trader looking for edge. So it says, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at the performance after different Monday moves. So down more than 1%, down less than 1%, up, flat, etc. Look at the magnitude of the move. Yes, good, because that's important to me. The magnitude, the average return on Tuesday, assess the volatility, seasonal trends. Not interested in this, not interested in this. At the moment, I'm not. Okay, but we could do later. So this is where it gets interesting. And you can skip all this stuff if you like, but this is good. Tuesdays not only have a higher probability of being up after down Monday, but also show positive average returns, especially when Monday is down more than 1%. Look, when Monday is down more than 1%, Tuesday is up almost 59% of the time. So we're starting to increase the chance of Tuesday being up when we're kind of really filtering down the breadth, I guess, of the Monday move. Okay, so bear with me, a few more of these and we'll kind of move on. Backtest the results of this. So it says, okay, enter a long position if Tuesday, Monday's down more than 1%, exit position at the close of Tuesday. It has some stop loss and take profit criteria. Okay, these are quite wide. I don't think these are pretty much triggered, but it's got to close the position at the close of Tuesday. Long position on Tuesday. So it's going to do Tuesday open and it's going to close it on the close of Tuesday, right? Just remember that in your mind because in a moment I spot that and go, let's adjust, but remember that. Okay, please show me the results of the strategy. I'm guiding it along like a dog on a lead. Come on, this way. No, not over there in that rubbish. Over here, this way. And I'm pulling it in my direction I want, which is to the panacea of beautiful trading strategies. Okay, so here we go. Screenshot. Total signals, blah, blah, cumulative return. Yeah, some of this cumulative stuff isn't that interesting to me. But okay, 34 signals, blah, 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 blah. Would you like to proceed with any of those steps? Yeah, define the strategy rules again. I need some clarity. And I'm fighting with it. I'm battling with it a little bit. But remind me what you're doing here because you've lost me a little bit. Okay. And it says, right, the strategy is blah, 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 blah. I'm going long on the open. So enter the position on Tuesday at the open. And I'm exiting the position if either stop loss or take profits were hit at the market close on Tuesday, right? So it's open to close on Tuesday. And I knew this would be crap. I knew this would be crap, man. So I thought, you know what? Show me. Just show me anyway. So it shows me that's rubbish. We don't want that. there's no edge in that. I don't care what that net P&L is. That's not sustainable. This is aggressive. Thumbs down, no dice. Okay, so the trader in me now goes, come on, there is something here. I need some meat here. And I was fighting with it for a bit, and you could see I was. It's these crap answers, and it's leading me down this path, and I'm trying to pull it back. Listen, eventually I said, right, um, let me just eventually I prompted it, I guided it, new approaches, checked it, different ideas, and I got some interesting results. And I've just got to skip through for you because I just bore you to go through all the battle I had with AI. And eventually, that's me and that's the AI shaking hands. We agreed on something, and this is what we got. And I kind of skipped multiple steps here, but I want to keep you interested. Don't you fall asleep on me. We've got more stuff to cover as well. But look, it's what we got effectively. I adjusted it and tweaked it and adapted it and said, okay, I know just from the trader in me that often, that close on Monday, if it's weak, is the kind of the last hurrah, and very often we drift up overnight. You've observed that, yeah. You drift up overnight, you open up a little bit of a gap on Tuesday, and then you rally and you kind of close, and you're kind of missing the meat of the move. And so I readjusted it and said, hey, let's do the same thing, but let's go long on any down Monday. And I kind of again I didn't include all the battle with this, but I basically wanted to simplify things. Any down Monday, go long at the close, and I tested out two different things. I tested out holding it until Tuesday's close and holding it until Wednesday's open. So I wanted to kind of see if I could get one extra overnight move on it, and the equity curve, or as colored, it could use slightly better colors, right? But anyway, that yellowy color was Monday to Tuesday, and this orange color is Monday to Wednesday. And you see the yellow just kind of, I think it's a better move. There's not much in it, but so really to summarize what we've done here, and I skipped some steps just for kind of speed. We have looked and we have said if Monday is down, then I don't even know why the x-axis is that what it is, but it's an equity curve of using 100 shares of SPY. And if Monday is down, right, go long on the close of Monday and then close that trade on Tuesday if you haven't hit the stop loss or target. And in fact, I remove the stop loss and targets. Yes. So we've got no stop loss, no target. Simple. If Monday's down, we're long at the close on SPY and we're closing that trade on the closing bell of Tuesday. So 9 p.m. Tuesday. So we're long on Monday, 9 p.m., closing Tuesday, 9 p.m. Now, this is something that's reasonably interesting, right? Because there's so much more we could do. So much more we could do, right? And for the sake of time, I'm going to share everything with you. I've got other stuff to cover, and I've dug into this loads. But now you go, okay, if your belief is then that actually works, okay. That's just years. Of course, it's years. Well, we've got loads of data on there. I'm pretty sure it's years. But we double check this side of stuff, right? And we'd look at the data we download, but I'm also pretty sure I don't know why I didn't stand out and tell me that, because I was thinking it's intraday stuff. Of course, it's daily data. So anyway, we go right. We know it's a bull market, so we know we're probably going to have a equity curve that goes from bottom left to top right. But this may be more effective than a total exposure to SPY. In which case, when you have that Monday weakness, could you look to position long at some point? Could you use that as your advantage and just trade long on Tuesdays? There's so many ways you could kind of adjust and adapt that. And hopefully that makes sense for you. All right. I've kind of wrote a slide about this. There's more we could do. We could dig into the Friday, Monday theme. If Friday is very, very weak, does that impact it? Does that improve it? Deeper research on exit criteria. Is it better to come out midday on the Tuesday? Often that noon balloon type move where we kind of get that pulse up. Is that better? Should we use a fixed average daily range exit strategy? Should we be adding to the trade? So should we add another clip on at the open? So this is where edge really starts to magnify, right? What about risk management? Should we be trailing a stop on it? What about if we did it on NASDAQ or Dow? And we don't take anything at face value, of course, but there's so much more to explore. And hopefully you're excited by that. Because when I see things like this and I go, well, actually, there's edge. Yeah. And even we go back to the DAX one, there's edge. There's something there that, okay, we don't know. We need to double check this data and double check the output, but there's something exciting there. And if you're like me, you love trading, you love the markets, this makes you go, oh, okay, this I can build something from this. I can dig in more. And it's just fun to do, right? It's fun to explore. It's fun to come up with stuff that maybe you've seen in your day-to-day trading, and you just want to kind of explore it. Okay, so and one idea actually, which was last week's, I think it's the last week's question. Apologies, I didn't write down who this was. using ChatGPT to generate ideas, right? So you go back and you get the idea, and then rather than run it through ChatGPT to back test in inverted commas, because maybe you don't trust the output, you could get code written and do it in your own platform. So that was something that I added just because someone mentioned it last time. Okay, so let's develop a little tool to help us now. And this is, I'm not developing some sort of super complicated thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, listen, ChatGPT can help us to code little indicators, right? All we need to do is tell it what language it is. We need to give it a simple brief. And I found when I've been playing with these and deploying these stuff, it's better just to start simple. You start simple, you make sure it compiles, you make sure it works, and then you add it to, you ask it to do something else, ask it to do something else, ask it to do something else. If you ask for loads of features straight off the bat, I want an indicator that does this. It looks at the position of VWAP, looks at the overnight range, it looks at the 5-period SMA, it looks at this, at that. It very rarely will get it right. Whereas if you start out and go, I just want it to do this, and then you add something else, you can fine tune and adjust the steps. So I'm going to show you examples, some really, really simple examples, but hopefully gives you the roadmap and blueprint of how you can do it for yourself if you want to go out and develop something. Okay, and I'm not a huge indicator guy, and you'll see this is the thing I developed. Right. So we go back to turnaround Tuesday. Maybe I just want to see if the Tuesday candle on my chart. Maybe I start with that, and then maybe I want to go, actually, if Monday was down and then Tuesday was up, can you highlight them both in purple so I can visually go back and see? It's a very simple indicator, right? But if you're not a developer like me, you're not a coder, I wouldn't know where to start with this. I mean, I can understand a little bit of code, right? I can do a little bit, but I kind of much easier for me to say, listen, I'm trying to make this very, very simple script that highlights Tuesday candle black. Does it here, blah, blah, blah. Here's the Pine script code. And I tell it that it's Pine script because that's what TradingView is, whatever you use MT4. Easy language, is it? I know that's trading TradeStation. I'm not sure what MT4. Anyway, EQL. Anyway, I'm not a developer. So this is how we do it. We go into Pine Editor, we paste it in, we add to the chart. I'm going to fast track this because this is very, very simple and it works. It shows me the Tuesday in black. Now I could go one step further. I could go, okay, actually, and the idea of this is I want to use it to identify Tuesdays easily. And I'm sure there's a built-in script with TradingView that does this for me, but you get the idea. You ask it something, and then I might say, okay, well, I also now want to identify, if Monday's a down day based on Friday's close, color that purple. And if I get turnaround Tuesday theme, then put a dot above it or something so I can visually zoom out and look at the whole of the, I've used Qs here. I don't know, we actually did it on SPY, didn't we? But the whole thing and go, hey, what can I see it visually? Is there something there I can see? And this is what I'm doing with this one, right? Another example I've got for you is, many of you trade like a flush or a volume spike or, that kind of thing. And we talked about that, I think, in week one. So an indicator I wanted to code was an indicator that highlights a candle if the volume for that candle is 200% of the 10-day average volume. And again, very, very simple indicator. But if you're not a coder, well, you know where to start, saves you having to pay a developer for this. And you can start to layer more complexity as you go. Take the Pine script. It comes up with the Pine script code. I hit copy and I make a change. Actually, say, hey, actually make the percentage volume users selected. I don't want it to be fixed at 200%. I want to better adjust this because 200% on a Forex pair is very, very, very unlikely. But on a stock, it happens. Yeah. Does the updated Pine script code. I select copy. I paste it in. And I give it a name. This is Pine Editor, by the way. It's on the bottom of your chart on TradingView. Select Pine Editor, clear it all, paste that in, and hit update on chart. And it will compile. And if it compiles, great, it's working. If it doesn't, I'll show you what to do in a second. And now we've got this very, very simple tool that, okay, super simple, right? It's just showing me when volume is 200% of the average volume for the last 10 days. Yeah, and I could change inputs and say from 10 days to a user input 10 days. But why I'm doing this is maybe I want to see exhaustion, and if I was improving this further, I'd probably say, listen, don't exclude the open and closing bar because I know they're going to be higher than normal volume. But if we get an intraday move that's higher than normal volume like this, like really, really high volume, that might indicate a flush, right? That might indicate, not in this case, exhaustion, flush to the downside. you can see by just very, very simple tool that might help guide me. And ChatGPT is just great for building little things like this. The amount of little tools I've built, where I've just wanted to see something, just show me this on my chart, just help me build this, add this to this. And it just saves so much time, right? And one thing to say is if it doesn't compile, just try pasting the error message. Like I say, I'm not a dev. And if it goes blah, 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 it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know why it doesn't work. I just copy and paste that error message back into ChatGPT, and it says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here is the code. Try that." And then very often that'll compile. And again, makes mistakes. Sometimes it's not going to work for you, but with an indicator or script or something like that, that just helps highlight something, then that's cool, right? And there's a process. Give ChatGPT the parameters, copy and paste the code in the Pine editor, hit update on the chart. Okay, so before we go to homework and before we go to Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing for time. We're good. Okay, summary of what we've done. We uploaded price data to ChatGPT and we downloaded that from TradingView. Very, very simple process. And you can go back and rewatch it to see the process. I'm sure there's material on YouTube, etc., as well to help you. We generated a strategy idea. The first, we kind of, well, we wanted to do some time series analysis. We weren't sure what we wanted to do, but we knew we wanted that. We thought that would be quite useful. So we guided it along the strongest hour. And the second example, we wanted to test the theory of the turnaround Tuesday. And we kind of only really scratched the surface with that, but it looked like it had some efficacy, right? Based on the data it was presenting us. We can look at themes, we generate back tests. And if you're like me, you like to visually see it. So you can say plot the equity curve, use an arbitrary value, pound a point, £10 a point, £5, whatever it is, just so you can see what would have happened if you'd taken that over the 51 days. And we talked about writing code for very, very simple indicators, right? Very simple. And they can, I say, layer them up to complex indicators. But if you start from scratch and you try to do something super, super complicated, it's going to throw wobbly. It will. Okay. So, whilst you are, what we can do now, ladies and gents, if you have any questions, stick them in the Q&A box. I'll get to those in a moment. But let's talk about your homework. Homework, yes. Teacher, mark at the front of the class. Come up with a trading strategy idea. I want you, your market you prefer to trade, whatever market is, I don't mind. Just come up with an idea. Like, hey, what about the strongest hour, weakest hour? That's a really good place to start. If you can't think of anything, what's the strongest hour for your market, the weakest hour for your market, the weakest 15 minutes, 5 minutes? What happens when this happens? What happens if we have a gap or just something? And then think about it, how you would put it into ChatGPT. Get your data, so your time frame, your chart. So put your instrument up, your data, your time frame. So daily, 5 minute, 15, whatever it is. Download that data, upload the data to ChatGPT, test it. You must test it. And the way I did it is, hey, give me 5 random days with the time in UK time, open, high, low, close in a table. And you can see how we did that. We went back and we double checked it with a data window in TradingView. You hit data window, and you can very easily see that. And you just move your cursor over that candle and it will show you kind of the open, high, low, close for that instrument. That helps you double check the data is correct. Because believe me, if you get on the wrong time frame, and you're kind of thinking it's UK time and it happens to be GMT and you're in BST or it's exchange time, it's a mess. You're basically trading something that's completely irrelevant. Okay. Analyze and discover something interesting. Play around with it. Enjoy spending half an hour just tinkering. Now you have the ability to do something that maybe you wouldn't have even explored before. Maybe you're full discretionary. Maybe this type of stuff was just way beyond you before, right? But now it's within reach with all traders. It's a very simple process, and we can ask it in easy language, so to speak, and we can say, hey, you know what? How do I do this? How would I? And it will guide us, and it will do all the calculations. Before we'd have to stick it in Excel, work out all these complex formulas, do this and do that. Way, way challenging. And I've done some of that stuff, and it doesn't come easy to me. That kind of really digging down into Excel. I'm definitely not an expert in that type of thing, but I had to learn it and go away, and I kind of extract this data, especially for the opening 15-minute range. And I'd say this, and I'd use it in my trading and go, well, if I'm expecting that range, and all this type of stuff. Now we can just use ChatGPT. Does all the heavy lifting for us. This is why it's so, so powerful. It's so, so useful. And so be very, very mindful, of course, the output. We saw that it made errors. We saw that it got stuck. We don't trust it. We saw that it made an error and it claimed it to be correct. And we double checked it. So use your brain, look at with your eyes, double check it, research it. And obviously don't trade from it, but you can see. I really hope you can see, with these slides I've put together in this workshop I've put together for you, that how you can extract so much useful knowledge. And maybe you don't trade that specific strategy. Maybe you don't go, oh, well, I'm just going to buy on the close. But maybe then you peel that in and layer that into existing edge and say, well, actually, I like to trade opening range breakout. So why don't I trade it when Monday's a down day on the Tuesday open? Because actually, I realize there's some efficacy. You get the idea. I hope you get the idea of this. So next week, let's look at some of your strategies. Come up with a strategy or an idea or a theme. Let's all get together and use the power of the traders on here and say, okay, is something you spotted, something key you've spotted, something interesting in the market, do that type of stuff. Okay, so yeah, get your questions in there, guys. A couple of questions coming through. I'll get to those. But next week, I'll remind you. So week 3, same time, same place. We're going to be at 7 p.m. a British summertime. Have we got any summer? It's been quite warm this evening, hasn't it? To be fair to the weather, but it's been raining as always the last few days. But anyway, rain or shine, we shall be here. The beauty of Zoom. Week 3. Looking at using ChatGPT to identify macro themes and trends. This is a fun one, right? This is fun. This is just a fun thing for traders to do. If you're like me, you're out and about, you're in a store, you're in a queue, you're driving along, you just think of things in terms of trades. You spot JP1 and number plate. You're in a queue and you're like, this queue seems way worse than before. Why is no one in this on a Saturday? And you start bringing up a chart. You see loads of people wearing the same item of clothes. So who owns that brand? We're going to do this, but we're going to do depth, in depth, in depth, in depth, in depth. We're going to generate unusual trade ideas based on observations that we see in the real world. So when you're out and about, because that's honest, this is interesting because alternative data, hedge funds, they get alternative data from credit card transactions, from app subscribers, from all this type of stuff. Well, we are on the front line ourselves and we see, some anecdotal data. Yeah, maybe one queue at one store, right? Or it's one bit of knowledge. But using ChatGPT, we can now go and we can use the earnings transcripts. We can use analysis of what other businesses are impacted from that, all this type of stuff to come up with trade ideas and maybe different ways to look at things. It was just a fun thing to do. Even if you don't actually trade the idea, it's fun to go down rabbit holes and go, oh, I didn't think of that, and looking at this and looking at that. So we're going to do that. That'll be a fun thing to do together. We're going to decipher Fed speeches using ChatGPT. How to upload transcripts and earnings calls. I'm not just saying summarize this. We will do that, but we'll also be doing other little things. Like some little tricks you can say, which you can, hey, just is there something that was mentioned in that transcript that maybe people missed that might be really, really impactful to that company? Stuff we can do. So we'll get to that, and that is same time, same place, week 3. Okay. And please be aware, obviously, of the risks involved with trading. And of course, we're not suggesting any of this stuff you should trade with. You should do your own research and all the other good stuff that we've said all along this call. But I know that you know that by now. So thanks to Pepperstone. And you can find more of me at tradesmastermind.com. Subscribe to my free daily email if you haven't yet. All right. So a couple of questions coming in. You can get GPT to make an intraday seasonality chart. Yes, you can, Chris. That's a great idea. Loads of cool stuff. Get those. In fact, Chris, if you want to come on the next call, then maybe do that on your chart that you like on the market you like to trade, and tell us, what's the real kind of kernel of value you got from that. Yeah, very, very cool. Non-ops attendee, thanks very much. I'm going to bring you over here so you're under the camera. Thanks so much for your time and knowledge. Very much. You're very, very welcome. Would this be viable for trading crypto? Do you envisage any unique problem for crypto when applying this method to generate trading strategies for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solarium, blah, 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 Solana, blah, blah, Solarium? No, it's going to be the same, pal. It's going to be, hey, you put your data into TradingView, you download it, and you look for the same thing. And you probably find way more stuff actually because of the type of market you trade in there. But it's exactly the same thing. I mean, I'm not a crypto trader, so I'm going to hold my hands up and say, you ask maybe someone who's more seasoned with it. Obviously, I know what crypto is all about and get it, but I don't trade it. But I can't think, especially with some of the bigger market cap stuff like your Bitcoin, like Ethereum, it's not just going to be exactly like downloading data from an index, from a commodity, or from a stock. I think you're still going to be able to get that information. And in fact, thinking about it, that's probably going to be valuable. And if you're going to be here next week, then yeah, bring that stuff. Do it on Bitcoin, do it on Ethereum, and do some time series analysis and see if you can find something of interest in and let us know. Just let us know. Maybe suddenly we'll become crypto traders all of a sudden. But yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that. I think the process is the same. Get your time frame up there, do the same thing, tell ChatGPT what it is, use that formula, magic formulas, get the persona and everything, and I think you'll be good to go. All right, ladies and gents, we shall call it an evening there. If that's your final question, thank you so much. We will be here same time next week for week 3 for the fun week. This is going to be good. You'll enjoy this one and you'll have something really actionable to take away. I hope you've enjoyed this. Keep your risk managed as always. See you again next week, ladies and gents. Bye bye.